All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part. So make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. And sometimes whenever I feel like it, so hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. You can also support the channel by heading over to theindianjesus.com for your very own official merch. Only at theindianjesus.com. We do also have a free Discord server, guys. It is completely free. Even if you're not super familiar with Discord, it's basically just a chat room, and there's plenty of people that can walk you through it. It is a great time. We're in there 24/7, hanging out and having interesting conversations. And after every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday live stream, we go in for an after party where we don't have to worry about the YouTube censors, and you're not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. You can camera if you want to. You don't have to. But either way, it is a good time. The after party, however, is only for the channel members. So scroll right below that and hit that join button. Not only getting members only live streams, but like I said, that after party. But again, even if you are not a member, the rest of the server is free. So hit that on up. Shout out to Lead Lace Ink Eater. Welcome. And let's welcome our esteemed guest for today, Blaine Pardoe. Welcome.
Thanks for having me back on. It's always fun.
Very, very good to see you. For those who didn't see the episode of that we did years ago, who are you? What do you do? And where can people find you and your work?
I'm Blaine Pardoe. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I've won a bunch of book awards as well. I write the Blue Dawn and the Land&SEA series, as well as other science fiction, military, and political thrillers. You can get a hold of me anywhere. The best place, obviously, I recommend is Amazon.com. But you can get me on Facebook, Twitter, etc. I'm on social media quite a bit during the day and engage with my fan community.
Beautiful. We got those links in the description, both for Twitter, Blaine's personal website, and some other stuff too that I'm sure Blaine will talk to us about today. So yes, we did. This is not our first time talking.
No.
Way back when. It was November 2021, and I wanted to just play a little clip from that. Given that your book series, Blue Dawn, is a basic. Oh, before we dive into that, why don't you just give a short synopsis on what the Blue Dawn series is?
Well, I wrote the Blue Dawn series prior to the pandemic, and it came out during the pandemic, and it's about a progressive overthrow of the government, a violent overthrow, and the progressives get everything they want. And for 5 years, they have everything. The Green New Deal, you name it. And when they do that, what happens is there's an uprising by conservatives to try to regain their country. So it's really a different way to kind of say, if I wrote a nonfiction book, I would write it as, well, let me show you what the progressives say they're going to do and how it would unfold. That's boring. But when you tell it as a piece of fiction, it's engaging. People want to read it, and they get into the story, and they're able to see it through the character's eyes. And I think that's a great way to kind of tell a story about what's happening in terms of a second American Civil War unfolding, and how that would look and how that would play out for the people in the country. Oh, I love the fact he's referencing AOC.
Shout out to Ron Miller.
The chief villain in my series is AOC. She is literally the bad person.
Yeah, it indeed makes sense. And Lee-Man, no. So the server is free to join, but yes, the after party is for members only. It starts at $2.99 a month. Or if you really want, join the server, send me a DM, and we could talk about a day pass or something. That is how we do it. So given that is the context of our conversation from 2021, check out this little ditty way back when story, and that this is a sensationalized version. But it also does seem to be a very real warning. So I guess my question to you is how realistic do you intend for this story to replicate real life?
Well, I had a friend of mine when he went through the book. He said, "Gee, we're only 2 bad days from this actually happening," and in many respects, that's true. A lot of what I pulled from the book, I really pulled from contemporary media sources.
And it was a bit more of that. So looking back on that, I think it's safe to say that you predicted the future.
Well, yeah, I think I've identified like 20 things in the series that I got ahead of the curve. And I'll throw out a couple that I got that were surprises even to me. In the second book, I have them try the government trying to ban wood-fired pizza ovens because they polluted. Well, we saw that in New York just last year. They were trying to ban wood-fired pizza ovens. This use of what's referred to as lawfare, which I'm not real fond of that term, but
really, I think it works. I think it works. It's always been a thing, but now that it's so common, do you have a better word for it?
And I had that in the book, that they twist the law around, because if you look into anybody's life, if I decide to go after your life and say, go find something to prosecute you on, I'm sure I could, if I dug deep enough. Same thing with me. I'm not perfect. Everybody's got something they've done wrong, whether they've jaywalked or whatever. And we were talking just before the show, you've got Paula Collins up in New York going, well, I think we need to round up all the conservatives and Trump followers and send them to re-education camps. Well, I've got that in the first book throughout the series, that's what they do. And they called them, in my series, they call them social quarantine camps.
That's what they literally actually called them during COVID.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those things that it's super simple to do, because I do watch the media that, most conservatives will say, oh, well, I watch Fox News. I watch Fox News, but when I'm at the gym, I'm watching MSNBC, I'm watching CNN, because I'm literally sorting through that for ideas for the book, because I found the political parties pretty much announce what they're going to do in advance. There's no surprise to any of this. The surprise is the timing sometimes, but for the most part, both political parties are pretty open with their agendas. And
if you know where to look, I think there's a thin layer, there's a thin veil, but in front of that, there's definitely a smokescreen that I fear that, I agree with you that it's pretty easy to see through if you're looking through it. But too many people, I think, are just too happy to, take everything at face value, and they say, oh, well, we're against racism. So this segregated lunchroom has nothing to do with racism. It's like,
yeah.
How does that work?
I feel like we've been taking a step backwards for a long time. It really boils down to, when I was being raised, Martin Luther King, was saying, let's just not judge people by their color. Let's just judge them on their character. And I've always felt that was like one of the greatest comments to make. And look what happens. Now we're judging people strictly by their color or their sexual preference, or whether they identify as a toaster oven, or whatever stupid thing that we can find to divide up our population by. And I think that's actually a mistake. I think and the argument is, well, that's a meritocracy and that's bad because you have an advantage and we don't. And I'm like, look, the playing field has never been as level as it has been in my lifetime. And I'm a boomer. It's never been this good. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. But, it's one of those things that I think that you have to look at you can look at the glass half empty if you want. If you've been around a long time.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. If you look at it, realistically, things are better than they've ever been before.
Well, shout out to Ron again.
Thanks, Ron.
The cheerleading here said, seriously, Blaine's Blue Dawn series is probably one of the best in dystopian literature. And yeah, I mean, literally, it was years. It was like he said at the beginning of the pandemic, and he wrote about this. We're living it. And so,
Yeah.
so at that, shout out to Andrew Campbell. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You'd say, yeah, at that time you had just finished. You said you just sent off book 2 to the publisher.
You broke up there. I got a lot of static. It's mostly static is what I'm hearing. I don't know if anybody else is hearing.
Let's see. 1 second. Any better?
Better. Perfect.
Okay, I can't hear you now.
Hello.
How about can you guys
Yep.
hear me in the chat? Let's see. So Blaine, why don't you just all I did was leave the hit leave studio and then click the link again. So why don't you do that and then go back to the Twitter. NSA is all right. All right. Oh, so you can't hear me? You can hear. Okay, so you can. All right. So hopefully that's just on my end. All right. Fingers crossed.
Hello.
Test. No, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I don't know. I'm going to try jump on my phone and see.
Well, it sounds like people can hear both of us.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Blaine, you can hear me. Okay, you can hear. So it's all on my end. Beautiful. Well, what were we talking about?
Well, I just written the second book. When the last time we talked. Oh. Hello.
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you.
All right. Okay. So yeah, we were saying you just sent off book 2, and you are now on book 5.
Yeah, book 5 just came out a couple of weeks ago. Doing real well on the bestseller list for Amazon. Real happy with it. Fans seem to be happy with it. So, it's got its own following, and we have our own little Facebook group that some fan has put together, and people have been joining it just to keep up with the series and stuff. So it's great.
Nice.
A lot of fun.
So what kind of things, obviously you had been talking about in general what might happen in book 1, and we were talking about, with this was even before the lockdowns, not before the lockdowns, but the vaccines, I mean. What kind of stuff was after you wrote the first one and you'd had the second one written already? I can't imagine that there's that much more that would get that much worse.
Oh, it really does, because this new book I gotten into the gun control discussion. Wherever you fall on that is up to you, but I really wanted to explore gun control from a totalitarian perspective, where guns are rounded up and why that doesn't work. First of all, everybody's in favor of that until they actually are the ones told go round up the guns. There's a lot of guns that just are going to always be off the records, that aren't traceable, that are out there. And I really explore the cartels in this new book. And that's one of the biggest threats I've seen to the United States that nobody seems to want to address. But we had 100,000 people killed last year due to opioid overdoses. Now, if I had come in with a machine gun and shot 100,000 people,
be on the news at least.
Yeah, well, I gotta tell you, they'd be mounting a military expedition to track my ass down. But we seem to be in this weird parity with the cartels who really do run Mexico. I cracked up when I heard there was a new Mexican president, because I'm like, that might be nice for you in Mexico City, but the rest of the country is run by the cartels.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's bad. And so I really explore things like that in the book. And I use the book and the characters as a mechanism to take a look at what those situations are. And it's a little bit scary, because I feel like we're almost bargaining behind the scenes with the cartels as to what to accept from them. And, I'm not so sure that's in the best interest of the American people. And that's part of what I explore a little bit. Now, whether it comes to pass, don't know, but sure seems a little weird to me that we're not hearing about this opioid problem on a major scale. So, every book I try to pick 2 or 3 themes and really kind of dive into them from the characters' perspectives a little bit so that you get that different view of things.
Yeah, because I certainly didn't mean to say that there's a shortage of nightmarish things happening, but it just seemed like you were so hitting the nail on the head with book 1. That obviously I didn't think we would expect Donald Trump to have gotten this deep into the trial and be potentially going to jail and all that stuff. But before we get to that, you bring up the cartels, and I have to be honest, I don't really know too much about how that works. I mean, obviously, they're in control, and they have their spots at the border, and that's where at least most of the drugs in the country come from. And even somebody who's had opioid type issues. Can you talk a little more about how that works?
Sure. I sit on an internet group called the Council of Future Conflicts, and we talk about this quite a bit. And I've had to learn from the other members of the council, which has been good. And, what's really interesting is there's about 15 cartels that are calling the shots in Mexico. The mayor of Tijuana at one point had to flee to a military base because the cartels are running the show. It's that bad. They literally control the flow of drugs into the country. Now, they get the raw materials from China and from several other countries, and they're shipped to that country, and fentanyl is made there, and that is part of what is packaged and shipped. And they're using the immigration system as a mechanism to transport and set up networks to move their product. And that is a problem. And any other country doing this to another country would have spawned military action.
Well, yeah.
And we don't see it. We don't even hear outrage about it. And I always put it this way, it's kind of like when there's a serial killer who's out killing prostitutes. There's never like this huge outcry, like, oh, there's all these people being killed because it's, it's prostitutes.
It's them. Yeah.
And with the opioid problem, I haven't personally had anyone in my family involved with it, but when you get down to it, it's a problem that crosses all socioeconomic levels. It crosses everybody.
Absolutely.
And you get 100,000 people being killed by a product that's being illegally shipped into the country, and nobody's going, we ought to do something about that. Like, we ought to protect these American citizens. Instead, what they focus on is, can we get Narcan in everybody's hand? Let's give them to the kids and, in their elementary school in case they see somebody overdosing. And that's not the solution, and nor is reducing prison sentences against that. One of the things I talk about in the Blue Dawn series was California's solution that gets used in the books is to provide opioids to drug users free of charge, because they think that will solve their crime problem. They won't have to rob people if they could simply get the drugs for free. But that's the level of thinking. And it's, one of the things I put in the book was this concept of the homeless problem is because people don't have homes. And so California provides them a bunch of tiny town houses. And I actually stumbled across a project where they've done this in LA. Which is remarkable, but that doesn't solve the problem. These are people that are suffering mental problems, drug addiction problems, alcohol addiction problems. There are other factors that put these people on the street, and just giving them a place to live just moves them out of the public eye. It doesn't solve their problem.
Right.
But our government tends to be focused on what can we remove from the public
optics. Right. It's all about short-term gains, because and I don't necessarily even, it's hard to even be like, how dare you politicians look for short-term gains and not care about long-term, when it's like the people that are looking for short-term gains, with their hand out, not caring about how that is going to affect us down the road. Daniel Cabrera saying prison should be for attempting to reform a good citizen out of a criminal. Yeah, they were. Tim Pool was just talking about this last night, about how sending people in a box just is not a solution either. Yes, exactly what you said. And I think there is, I mean, not that homeless people are not committing crimes, but yes, if you're committing a crime, then I do think you need to be removed from society. But that's not a solution to the problem. That's just a Band-Aid effect to make sure that you don't commit more crimes. And
I think people have got to take a look at the prison systems at work. And I want to brag a little bit about Virginia. My daughter was the director of nursing in a men's prison. And it was, we have a very low rate of people that in the country, in perspective, that leave the prison system in Virginia and end up recommitting crimes and being rearrested and ending up in jail. So you need to take a look at the systems that are working and leverage those, and leverage the solutions they're putting in place, because the goal is, let's get people out and get them as functional productive members of society.
Right. Well, and I mean, even if you want to go down the road of these more progressive type options, like Portugal, legalized all drugs, but they didn't just like legalize and be like, okay, you're good now, as if that the drugs being legal was the problem. The fact is that people being addicted is the problem. And so they had safe injection sites where you had to go to get, you weren't, I'm sure you could still buy, but, they would get, medical grade, whatever it is, use there. They have professionals that are there to give you resources and help you down that road. And whether it's prison or the homeless people, it's the same thing. There's no attempt to help them. And on the left, that makes the just simply left and right. It makes the right seem like, oh, they're so mean, they don't want to help the homeless people. And then on the right, it's like, oh, these stupid liberals just want to throw money at everything. And it's like, well, somewhere in the middle. We need money for solutions, but just throwing it at these people isn't the solution.
Well, look at what's happened with Ukraine. We've thrown money and money and money into Ukraine, into a war that Ukraine can't win. It's never going to beat Russia. Russia's got 2 million men they haven't even mobilized yet. This is not a scenario that can easily be won. And we tend to throw money at problems rather than think through actual functional solutions. And, I think you have to tackle the drug issue in this country, both at the source, but you also have to tackle, what are you going to do about the people who are addicted? How are you going to get them the proper mental care, the proper, whatever care they're going to need to be functional members of society again? Yeah. Because if you don't, they're just going to end up on the streets. And it's it's an embarrassment for us. My son lives out, he works in Hollywood, and he lives, in LA. And, I walk around the streets there, and there are people just camped out everywhere. And I've had people jump up and scream at me about stuff. And it's
there's a whole style of videos of people who live in city, whether it's Seattle or Portland or San Francisco or whatever, and they, they'll just walk around and be like, oh, just a normal day in New York, San Francisco, whatever it is. It's like, that shouldn't be like, I'm glad that you're making the best of it, but maybe we want to do that should change your attitude about it. Yeah, Funkmaster General says a lot of homeless people don't want to be helped. They choose to live that way. That's a big misunderstanding from people who think that just throwing money is the solution.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things when I do Blue Dawn books, I sit down and really go, how am I going to slice this and dice it and make it so that a reader gets it in a fictional context so that they can understand the issues that are actually there. And I think that makes it interesting and it keeps people kind of engaged, and you have to do that. Everybody wants to be entertained. It was so tempting when I did this series to write it as a nonfiction and say, this is what the Second American Civil War will look like. And here's what the causes are going to be. And this is what they're going to do. That's boring. I write nonfiction books. They do not engage people. Mm-hmm. Doing it in a fictional context makes it something that people want to read. They're entertained.
Well, yeah, and that it's the emotional aspect. We were talking just before we came on about facts versus feelings, and it reminds me of early on when I started streaming. Somebody had just asked a very general question in the chat: which is more important in politics, feelings or policy? And of course, immediately I was like, obviously policy. And I was like, wait, I don't know that that's true, because if you can have the best policy in the world, but if you don't win, if you're not in office, if you don't have power, then you can't affect anything. And so, I mean, it's it gave me pause for a second. And obviously, policy is the paramount, but it gave me a pause because it made me realize that you have to, like you said, get people where they are. And the fictionalization of it makes it so that there are characters and feelings that resonate with the reader, and makes it so that they can see it. Because maybe people like you and I are watching the news and looking stuff up and reading this and reading that. Most people are either lazy and don't care, or have a family and they've got stuff to do.
Yeah, I agree. Well, and you have to watch it. And I think the most telling example I saw of this recently was, to your point, was Donald Trump when he made his statement about abortion. And it pissed off a whole bunch of conservatives. They were like, you need to be against, push a bill that bans abortion in all states, blah, blah, blah. And Trump made the comment very, very off the cuff, but to the truth, he goes, do you want to win the election or not? You can't make any policies if you don't win. So this is where I'm going to go, because your stand is not going to win an election. And you know what? That counts.
Indeed. I think I might have it here. Let's see. Is this
a follow-up? Over the last few decades, Mr. President, you have both considered yourself pro-choice and pro-life. Which one is it?
But you know exactly which one it is. And when I was in New York, and when I was a Democrat also, just like Ronald Reagan, Ronald Reagan was a Democrat. We sort of followed a very similar path. But if you look at what we've done with Roe v. Wade, we did something that everyone said couldn't be done, and we got it done. And I give great credit to the Supreme Court and the justices for having the courage to do it. What they did is very simply give it back to the state. And I'll tell you, the Democrats are the radicals on this, because they're willing to have abortions in the 7th, 8th, 9th month. They're even willing, and you can call it what you want, but you go back to the governor of Virginia, the previous governor of Virginia, the Democrat governor of Virginia, we're talking about execution of a baby after birth. And you can say what you want, but that's extreme and that's radical, and nobody should have that. And it has to be ended. Please.
Yeah. So some strong statements. Shout out to the Funkmaster General here. Said, don't stop the conversation for this. Thank you very much. And a treat for Morty. Very, very much appreciated. So I think the notion of the going back to the states, that was obviously the proper thing. But I do think there's something to be said about, I don't think you're going to find a better middle ground than what Roe v. Wade was. How do you feel about that?
I don't, the abortion issue, period, is an issue no one can win, because no matter what, your opinion on that is based on your religion, your upbringing, your values, your core beliefs. and no one can ever convince you differently. I think Roe v. Wade worked to a certain extent for many people, but I also think it's been moved down to the state levels, and the states have implemented, for the most part, what was out there as a federal program. Yeah, there's some states that have gone wackadoodle and tried to go both ways on the abortion issue. But, you know, it's local, and you have more control over something at the local level. So, you know, work through your local government to set the standards. I don't think the federal government should be involved with it. And the Constitution's really clear. It's like, if it's not mentioned in this document, it belongs to the states.
Yep.
And that's really, even when you look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when Roe v. Wade passed, she said, this is a mistake. This is something that really belongs down there. And she knew that at that time. You know, this is someone who's an icon of the left, but I think it's just something that people have wandered away from. And to me, it's a losing subject for both sides. You are not going to change anyone's opinion on that subject until you're actually dealing with it. You don't know and how you're going to react, why you're going to react, and what your true values are. It's easy to go, oh, well, I'm pro this and I'm pro that. When it actually hits home, then it's something you have to personally.
Sure, but that's I think that's what having principles is about. Is that not? I mean, you know, you could say the same thing about the trans issue, and that you could be totally against this, that, and but you don't know until it's your own child. But I mean, I feel comfortable with not having children, saying that shouldn't ever happen to children. And, you know, I'm also comfortable saying that, you know, past a certain, I mean, I believe that life begins at conception. But the fact is, a lot of people don't. And so, you know, Daniel's saying, I disagree. There was a better middle ground. I mean, please tell me what you think that is. Because right now, instead of it being like, okay, once you get to the whatever 6 week, I don't remember what Roe v. Wade was. I don't know how many kids. I don't care. But whatever that was, yeah. Now there's a bunch of states that had those trigger laws that you can't get at all. But guess what? Except for Alaska and Hawaii, which I think are still have abortion, you can drive to another state. And so I think there's going to be more abortions of children that are more developed now that we don't have Roe v. Wade in place, even though it shouldn't be in place.
Well, I still think it belongs at the state level. Whatever the states actually come up with is for their individual rules. And, you know, I know the Georgia law they thought was too restrictive and things along those lines. And yeah, I get it. But that's something that you get to fight out at the local level. Trying to make it a national standard doesn't play well, because what applies in New York City doesn't apply in Iowa. And that's the reality of the country that we live in, that each individual state does have its own character. It does have its own slant on laws and values and morals and things along those lines. So that's the place it needs to belong.
So Daniel said, if there's if the line is 4 months, the no fetus under that line exists. I mean, well, so I agree that there could have been a better middle ground. I'm saying the middle ground that already existed, you're not going to get a better middle ground than that.
Yeah, you're not. You're not, because you're never going to get anybody to agree. Even if you said, let's roll the clock back and go back to that, there's going to be a large contingent in the country that says, hell no.
And so, you know, the fact of the matter is, you know, you talk about I think the big problem with everything being such, you know, on the federal level has to do with mainly social media and just everybody being online. And I remember one of the biggest things I liked about MySpace and Facebook back in the day was that it was social media that was meant to enhance your real life. Like, you'd follow people that you knew in real life, and then, you know, you'd make plans to go and hang out here or go to a concert or whatever. And but then, you know, once it was Trump once Trump came down that escalator, then everybody picked sides, and then nobody, everybody blocked everybody that didn't want to listen to, and then just like Twitter, it wasn't the same kind of thing where you're following people, and it just became everybody this global community. And
well, it supplemented real life. It took over for real life.
Yeah.
It became, your grim satisfaction was how many clicks and likes you got. Or if you could post a negative comment about somebody and it upset them, that made you happy. Yeah. I've got a stalker who follows every time I'm on a show, then posts nasty comments about threaten my life. I had to get a restraining order against this person. I had to get it renewed a couple months ago. This person's unhinged. He's 40 years old, 41 years old, living with one of his parents, unemployed, and it's like, but he's on social media all day, and he's posting things that are hilarious from my perspective, only because he says things like, I'm not stalking Blaine, but here's one of the things he posted this morning. And this is why he's a bad person. And it's like, you do know you are stalking, right? I don't communicate with him, but there's a lot of people out there that are like that now. And the only place they exist is there because they don't have jobs. They don't have cars. They don't have real friends. They don't have a social life other than Twitter and Facebook and Discord. That's where they exist. And those people are, I don't care what generation they are, they're just morons. And they're not good people. They need to get out and experience real life and get a job, be a productive member of society. Do something with your life. But if you think you're doing something because you're online, it doesn't mean anything. It's pablum. It's a saltine cracker where somebody scraped off all the salt. And
that's not to downplay again the positives that it has, where you can connect with family members, or if if you're disabled or something, you can't leave the house. Now you do have the option to be online all day. Not saying that those are bad things, but for the average person, there's a reason that touch grass became a meme, because people's brains are just getting cooked by getting further and further down this rabbit hole, that rabbit hole, or just the general rabbit hole of being online. They talk about online brain, and it's like you said, I think it can kind of be worse with people, let's say, like 35 and up. It can be worse because of the fact that you didn't grow up with with technology. I think that because all of the Zoomers and 90% of millennials have been perpetually online for the last 15 years, that it's a different thing than being introduced to it when you've grown up and you're adult, and now it's like, oh, here's this new thing where your mind was already primed for an analog life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we view it differently because we had lives before we got on social media, and social media just augments a little bit of it. I tend to use mine to make snarky comments and to promote my material. That's what I use it for. And it's a way for me to engage with my fan community that I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. Writers never met their fans except at book signings. And those are oftentimes incredibly awkward because you really can't have a conversation. It's just that type of thing. Social media allows me to connect with my fans. I got people today posting, oh, I just finished this book. I'm like, great. Did you like it? Who's your favorite character? We talk through that stuff, and it's a lot of fun. But there's a whole bunch of people out there that they only exist on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've noticed that even from my perspective, making videos, that the videos that I just kind of make and put out, which I don't do as much anymore. It's much different than like you guys are all here right now. And, when Daniel's like, oh yeah, I completely agree with that. It's right here. And it's a more conversational type of thing. Yeah. And it's it's odd to me when people develop these super parasocial relationships with someone they've never spoken to. They've never, had a direct contact with. But because you watch their videos every day, there was just what was it? I forget. It was just the other day we were talking about something, and I went to this conference called Dissident Dialogues last month. And Alex O'Connor, he's an atheist philosopher type dude, was on one of the panels, and I went to get the VIP to make sure I could network and whatever, instead of just watching the videos or the panels that'll eventually be on YouTube. And so I was talking to him and networking with him and stuff. And the trans issue came up, and then I was talking about Alex's position on the trans issue, and somebody in the chat here was saying, "No, you're wrong. I've been watching Alex this." And I'm like, dude, he said it to my face. The words came out of his face and went into my ears. He's like, "Nah, you're wrong." I'm like, oh, okay, all right, dude. Whenever you say. Shout out to you. Welcome.
The trans issue is a very delicate one, because I do think there are people who are born in the wrong bodies, and or feel that they are, and I have I'm much more
comfortable with you feel like you're born in the wrong body than you are born in the wrong body.
But
because how would you know? I've only ever been in one body.
I know, and because we haven't experienced it, it's hard for us to have a frame of reference to it. But I think to a certain degree, there's a big difference between that and the fundamental shift we've seen, which is we want to go into schools and start talking to kids about this. We want to push, puberty blockers. We want to push surgery against kids who we wouldn't even let go out and get a tattoo.
Exactly.
We're going to push cutting off their genitalia or mutilating their body in some way. And I think that discussion, and then to say, well, if you don't support that, you're transphobic. Yeah, you're big. It is ridiculous and stupid, and I'll call it what it is. It's a retarded position for them to have. It
doesn't stop them from being very good at somehow creating this bubble where, what is it? A year and a half since the Matt Walsh documentary, What is a Woman, came out, and they still can't answer that question. Guys, leftists, if you're out there, I will help you. All you have to say, because it's a gotcha question, it doesn't get us anywhere except to show how dumb you are for not being able to define the woman without the word woman. Just say anyone who identifies as an adult human female. It's that simple, but they can't even think that far. Why am I better at your arguments than you are?
Well, in the trans issues, a hilarious one from another perspective, which is the Democratic Party likes dividing people up in little buckets with little labels. So they were very much a party of the women. And that came out of the Hillary movement. It was, we're the party that supports women. Well, then when they hopped on the trans bandwagon, suddenly they found themselves at odds with one of their other buckets, which is women.
Yep.
And it was, well, we support trans women taking part in sports with women and using their locker rooms and stuff. And there were a lot of women that were like, whoa, this isn't fair. It's not right. And in some cases, it's not safe, and it's bad. You've ended up as well, the last, 6 of the last 8 mass shootings have been done by trans people.
Right.
And they just released today, 48 new pages to the manifesto from the one down in Tennessee.
Oh, really? Finally.
Yeah.
And now that all the excitement's died down, now it's time to.
Now we're going to start releasing it, and this was a person.
Journalism.
Yeah, I started reading through it, and this was a person that was all upset about trans block. I would kill to get puberty blockers, and I'm trying to do and it's like we're creating circumstances where we are upsetting natural balances in human bodies that aren't meant to be upset. When you start loading up someone with hormones that they're not supposed to be genetically engineering it themselves and producing, you are going to create circumstances where there's mental turmoil and things are going to get out of hand. I'm not saying that every mass shooter is a trans person, but what I'm saying is we've had a trend lately of this happening. And I think it's to blame it on everybody else that the trans people are doing this is not
Right.
the right answer.
Well, and I mean, even before the trans thing, every time since Columbine and everyone since then, it's the left jumps down the gun control argument. But now that we have an even wider pool of people and different types of people, it's not all affluent white kids that are this, that, whatever. But well, I mean, actually, it kind of is. But point being, there are different types of mental health issues, and there are that is the common thread: mental health issues. And you were bringing up before that people need to be able, we need to be able to address people's mental health issues, whether it's the fact that Zoomers are thinking that they have depression or Tourette's or whatever. I don't know if you've heard that there's Tourette's TikTokers. And they'll be like, they'll just start talking about whatever it is, and then they do these weird ticks, and then the kids who watch the videos start ending up doing the ticks just from seeing it, and it's like you can see how an underdeveloped brain, maybe social media shouldn't be for anyone under 18 years old.
Yeah, my grandson is 14 years old and he doesn't have any social media accounts. His phone is locked down to certain hours of the day that
Good
he
for
can
you.
go on. He
Good
can't
for you.
even load up an app without getting approval from his mother and his grandmother at this point.
That's
And
amazing. Yeah,
we're keeping, and he's in high school, and he doesn't need that stuff. And I think he's actually happier for not having it.
I was just gonna ask, like, I would imagine that initially it's like, oh, mom, dad, I want, everybody else has got it, but if you are on the outside of it, which I'm not, so I'm speculating because I'm just like everybody else my age, I'm on in front of a screen all day, but I can imagine that you can look at the other kids your age and be like, oh, I don't, yeah, it would be nice, but probably better off.
Yeah, he's actually not even asked to get Facebook or Twitter. He's like, he's like, I'm good enough with YouTube. I can deal with that, And it's like, if that makes him happy, then fine. Then that's what you need.
Well,
So,
good job. Good job.
it's just one of those things where it's like, I think a lot of basic parenting stuff has fallen by the wayside. And, I blame to a certain degree churches and other institutions that are out there who are not stepping in and saying, look, these people are having kids. We should actually teach them what it is to be a good parent. And maybe their parents aren't the best parents, but there's other institutions out there, and churches are one I always look to that can offer you a sense of morality and offer you a sense of how to do things correctly. My wife was involved with a group called Young Lives, and it was all about pregnant girls whose families had turned them out because they were pregnant. And they didn't just give them a home to live in, but they gave them schooling. They taught them all the basic baby care and things along those lines. So it was like, what can we do to set these young girls who are now single mothers up for success? How do we set them up so that they will be productive members of society? And if more religious groups would step in and do programs like that, it would actually help people out. And it did help young women out.
That's a good point, because especially again with the online discourse, and I don't know how familiar you are with like the dating red pill manosphere space, but basically just a place for angry dudes to just yell at women and I mean, don't get me wrong, there's definitely some things about female nature that I didn't know. I grew up watching Disney movies and rom-coms and stuff, and just hearing, oh, just be yourself, not realizing that, oh, okay, like I have to account for being 5'4". Like women care about that, and just some basic stuff that I didn't know. And so at first I'm watching stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm learning, and then I'd just been dumped by a girl, so I'm like, oh yeah, I get this girl, but then it's like, what are we doing here? You're supposed to be some, rich, successful, whatever. And you're bringing in these, these low tier women, and just trying to out argue them. And that's an accomplishment. Like,
What?
No, I'm not familiar with any of that. No, I'm thankful I'm not.
Oh yeah.
But,
mean, I'm sure you've heard the name, like Andrew Tate.
Oh yeah,
that whole thing, and I said, I was guilty of following that stuff. But you can check my record. It was long before he got arrested or any of that stuff. I was like, okay, maybe let's back away from this a little bit. It could have been probably a little bit sooner, but mea culpa.
Well, when I was a kid, we had a relative in my family who was mentally retarded, and it was my grandmother's sister's child, and my grandmother's sister, which is my great aunt, died. This was a guy that was in his 30s and 40s when I knew him. He's a full grown man, but he had the mentality of a 3-year-old,
Right.
and he was dangerous to other people and himself, because he literally is a 3-year-old in a human, adult body. And so, he would strike.
Not like a trans person, like actually.
No. And at the
I have
time,
an aunt. Yeah, I have an aunt that has Downs, and she's a little bit more mature. But yeah, even at like 56, I don't know, 50 something. But yeah, she basically is the brain of a teenager.
But we used to have mental institutions, and I'm not saying it's something the family's proud of, but we had him in an institution, and we had him there to make sure he didn't hurt himself or other people, because putting him on the streets, we could, I'm sure they could have given him a cocktail of drugs that would have made him a little bit better, but it's bad. We closed all of those mental institutions in this country. We went through and purged those things. And now we just go, well, we've got such a great amount of drugs, that's going to take care of the problem. And it doesn't, because sometimes people don't take them. They start feeling better and they go, well, I'm feeling better.
I don't need it. Yeah.
You don't need it. And that's when they slide back down and things along those lines. And I think actually we need to take a look at reopening some mental institutions and getting people who need help, get them the help.
Yeah. And betterhelp.com is not it. You guys, I mean, hopefully I get some sponsors soon, but I will never do an ad read for like a BetterHelp or Talkspace or any of the apps, because it's basically DoorDash for psychologists. Like, they're working already, and then they're on there as like a side gig because they're not making enough money. So little tip there. And I went to school for psychology, which is how I know how much BS is in the industry of psychology. But do you know if that the institution that your family member was in was government run, or
it was run by the state government?
Because
they closed them, and I get it. It's
because there was a lot of issues, but that's where it's like, of course it was the government. So, I mean, if there were private, if there was a way, like, this is, something where when we talk about small government and social safety nets and stuff like that, I would be in favor of some grant to somebody to open a private, a privately run mental institution, see how that runs, and then they can get funding for franchising or whatever, but it's still privately owned, and then other people can also apply for these grants, and then there's competition, so that they're not just throwing people against the walls and leaving them in soiled clothes and all this stuff, which, as far as they taught me in college, which was the main reason that a lot of these places were shut down.
Well, we were told, and I remember when the debate was going on when I was young about it, and they were like, well, the people that are running these places aren't running them well. They're abusing the patients. There are families that are putting family members in there who don't belong there, but they're putting them there for whatever diabolical scheme purpose they had to do that and stuff. And I'm like, well, then fix those things. Fix those things.
Right.
But their solution was kind of a nuclear approach, which is, let's just get rid of this. And, I think this person's actually got a good point. Many hospitals are privately ran and they're a mess of bad services.
Well, I mean, and I would definitely agree, but how privately run are these hospitals really? It's private, but it's so insurance companies are tied to the government. The healthcare is all tied to the government. So I hear you, but this is like, Zippy, I'm sure you would agree that if we can have private insurance and a private hospital that and the healthcare that was single payer or whatever your preferred, I guarantee you would agree that would be better. These private hospitals would work better because the government bureaucracy would be out of the way.
Yeah, the closer the further you get from government influence, the better on almost everything. Honestly, aside from providing national defense, which I think is something we have to have, and a national treasury. Beyond those things, when you start getting the government involved, it doesn't work. And a good example of that, Department of Education. We established a Department of Education. Our education standards have dropped every year that we've had the Department of Education.
Yeah. And I mean, shout out to Harley. I don't know if Harley's watching, but she's always talking about, how we need to fix education. And it's something that is, there's not enough room for the free market to be able to break in. And you can see a lot more people starting to do, whether it's just old school homeschooling or these private pods or whatever, but getting out of the public school system.
Yeah, my neighbors are homeschooling their kids, and their kids are fantastic kids. They're out playing outside all the time. They're not in front of TV screens and stuff. They're out learning and things along those lines. And I think that's the way to go. The teachers union, especially when we went through COVID and they were all about locking things down, my grandson was locked down and we would go over there for his classes, and it was a joke what they were teaching him for that entire period of COVID. His gym teacher literally would go, go run up and down your driveway 10 times. And that was gym class.
Wow. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like? Because again, not having kids, I know it was bad, and the biggest thing the biggest story out of that was again going back to the trans thing, that people parents were seeing that stuff was in there. But like, what was a normal a day of remote schooling like?
Well, he had to log on at a certain time in the morning to be online. Then each teacher had a curriculum that they posted, and they posted it like 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They had homework assignments, but a lot of them were here, like a math teacher that he had would go, look at this YouTube video and then solve these 2 problems. And, you can't teach algebra by saying, watch a YouTube video. You
can learn a lot from YouTube, but
you can. But
there's a limit.
Yeah, and a lot of his stuff, his social studies stuff, was very bland. It was stuff found on the internet that teachers said, here, look at this PDF I found, read this. And that would be the assignment for the week, is reading a 2-page document. It was a joke.
So I'm trying to look at the silver lining. Is there a possibility that having the kids, basically teaching themselves, is there any way that you saw that could be a skill that, like, okay, well, the millennials didn't get this, they just got their assignments handed to, or is it just all bad?
It was bad. It's bad for adults. When I worked at Ernst & Young, the accounting firm, I was involved in training for years, and there was a huge shift within our firm to let's do everything virtual. Let's do online learning. Let's stop getting people in classes. And at the time I left the firm, they were starting to realize that didn't work. That people, part of the learning experience is the interaction with other human beings. And in the raising of children, part of the reason you send them to a school, and it's the only negative I can come up with for homeschooling, is their social interactions with other students. You have to learn how to deal with the crazy goth kid in the back of the class, and you got to deal with the bully. You got to deal with, you have to learn to deal with other people who have different beliefs and ways of looking at things in the world, and you have to cope with that. You remove that from the learning experience, even for adults, it fails. And it's because you don't get the benefit of what other people in the class can bring to the table, because you don't get to hear their voices. You're just watching a video and then answering a test question to see if you can pass it. And they're finding more and more they're driving towards a highly interactive model, and they're driving back to actual classroom learning. And I used to run a program for tax professionals down in Vero Beach, Florida, and a lot of it was the camaraderie that these new hires got learning this software and stuff, and having friends that, oh, I met you in class, I'm stuck.
Right.
Can I email you and ask you how you solve this problem? And
it's like, now can I DM you? And I think that for maybe people around my age, where we had that that more analog childhood, and then we were more late middle school, high school before we were really getting that involved. And even still, most of our parents had time limits and stuff. It just wasn't so all encompassing. And I forget where I was going with that, but that's what I was going to say. That it's so all encompassing. And so you heard me say at the beginning, when we go to the after party in the Discord server, which you're welcome to, it's on screen like this, so we can all, but you don't necessarily have to put your camera up. So a lot of people will be like this, and that's fine. You don't have to show your face if you don't want to. But it's so much more impersonal, and especially from my perspective, when you guys are watching me for hours and hours and hours, seeing my facial expressions, seeing me get excited at this and mad at that and whatever, and then I only hear you for a couple hours, and I'm only seeing a picture. That's the type of parasocial relationship that can develop, which is I arguably worse than the one I was talking about earlier, where you just watch their videos and you think you know them. Because to a certain extent, like people who watch regularly, me pretty well. And when we go into the after party, we're there for hours. So you do get to know me well, but I don't get to know you to the same extent. And there was one person that didn't quite get that early on, and they were getting very demanding about, like, well, you didn't pull my chat up, and like, lady, I don't even know who you are.
Well, we've done that, and we supplement that. This has become the replacement for reality. Mm-hmm. Oh, hell, my kid is in third grade, and the reason I'm sending the child to private is the lack of homework for the last 2 years. Yeah, well, look what happened with COVID, and I'm talking on a broad scale. First, you had the teachers union going, look, these kids got to go to school masked because, my God, these teachers are at such risk. Turns out social distancing and the masks were all, made up. Honestly. Yep,
all BS.
And we've now learned that social distancing wasn't even a scientific thing at all. The whole we're following the science. You followed a scientist.
I would argue that you followed a politician who talks about science.
Yes. And so all the schools in the country are now a year or two behind with these kids. So what have they done to fix the problem? Now, you and I would say, look, for the next 2 summers, these kids are going to need to go to school to get them back up to where they are. Just, this is catch-up time. We need to do this. But the teachers union, whose entire job is to lead education, is going, you can't do that. Teachers use the summer to get summer jobs and to supplement their income and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you're not in the business of actually trying to educate children anymore. You are now advocating only for the teachers. You do not represent the students in any way, shape, or form.
Which, to be fair, is what the teachers union is for. But the teachers individually, like, yes, I can totally understand, regardless of what it is, that at the end of the day, a job is a job is a job. And that's why, I don't know if you remember during the lockdowns when all these videos of nurses dancing were going viral. And a lot of people were upset about that. I thought it was in very bad taste, but I also was like, I mean, I'm sure they're not supposed to be in surgery at that moment. Like, again, I agree, it was in bad taste. And so point being, yeah, every job at the end of the day is going to become just your job. But there's certain positions, there's certain jobs, there's certain there's certain positions where it has to be a little bit more than that. You have to have a little bit more care. You know, like I'm a dog trainer outside of this, and so yeah, going to train a dog. Sometimes I'm just not like just like anybody else, kind of phoning it in. But there at the end of the day, I have to I can't just completely phone it in, because these people are depending on me. These, especially, if children, it's an aggressive dog or something, like James said, return to No Child Left Behind. Good.
No.
That's how we got here. That's how we got here.
We've got to take a look at education. The reason that they used to let kids off during the summer was very simple. It was so they could work on their family farms and the family businesses. That was the intent. Was as soon as the harvest was in, they went back to school. That was what it was for. We are no longer that agricultural based society.
Well, and they're getting rid of daylight savings time because of that, right? I mean, I had never even thought of the kids being going to school in the summer. I think that is, I don't see a better option. Like that's such a good option. Like I get why the kids wouldn't like it. I get why the teachers wouldn't want to do it, but
they don't want to do it, and I get it. But
there was so much lost. There was so much lost, and the younger you go, the more that was lost. I mean, high school kids. All right, you basic stuff for the vast majority of people. Do you really need to remember anything past algebra that you can't look up? For probably not. You might have a thing here or there, but whatever. But if you're 7 or 8 years old, and part of going to school isn't just socializing, but socialization, the ability to socialize, and you're not seeing people's faces, that's not gonna work. You can't skip that.
Yeah.
And they were like, yes, you can. We're doing it. Screw you.
Well, they assured us, Randy Weingarten assured us that they were going to get as good an education online as they did in the classroom. It was a lie. It was a blatant lie. And everyone, by the way, knew that it was a lie. And we all just kind of rolled over and took it because of fear and stupidity on our parts. Yeah. And we're now learning literally how stupid we were.
Absolutely.
To have trusted the government during all of this. And by the way, it crossed multiple presidencies. I'm not targeting Biden with this. This crossed 2 presidencies, but it was ridiculous. And here's a little fact that a lot of people don't know. Do you know that only 40% of the federal government has actually returned to working in the office in Washington, D.C.?
I didn't know that, but that does not surprise me one bit.
Because the federal employees union says, whoa, if these people go back, now they got to hire daycare again. Oh, no. Now they have to make arrangements. Now they have commutes. And they've been doing their job remote, so what's the big deal? No, I worked remote for 20-some years of my career. I get it. But, the impact on our major metropolitan communities, if you go to a place like Indianapolis, etc., a lot of the downtown restaurants and businesses have closed because people have not returned to work. Mm-hmm. So, the restaurants are there for lunches, the dry cleaners, the people who provide services, etc. Those businesses are closing, and they're closing because people haven't come back to work. And it's this leftover hangover of COVID still that we're dealing with. And there's no one stepping up going, hey, if you don't return to work and you work for the people and you don't go back to your office, you don't work here anymore.
Well, I think that is, so there's different, I think there's a lot of jobs where, maybe you don't necessarily need to be there. Like remote will work fine. Like if you're, doing coding or something, like you don't need to be in the same room as somebody that you could just send a message if you literally just need that information from coworkers. Socialization is not necessarily a part of every job. Right. Get the job done and whatever. So if that's the type of job that you have, then whatever. But again, the government coming together and working and for better or worse, doing all the backroom deals and all that stuff. Like the way that things work the way that things work for a reason. And when you change that and expect that nothing is going to happen, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, I can tell you from my own personal experience, having worked at home, you really need a manager who knows how to manage a virtual workforce. I managed teams that were in India, Britain, France, the Netherlands, Germany, Argentina, Poland. I had teams that were global in nature. I was trained and had experience on how to manage a truly widespread geographic team that was working virtually. I can tell you that a lot of managers can barely manage a good bowel movement or a trip to Starbucks.
So what would be the difference in knowing how to manage people in an office versus
well, because you need to set short-term goals and objectives and then be able to make sure that they're completed so that you're keeping those people busy and utilizing their time. Because if you give somebody a goal and they whack it out in a week and they then sit around for 2 weeks and play Xbox because you haven't been doing a good job of keeping them busy, because you don't know what they're doing and you're not monitoring their work and not monitoring their actual productivity and output, you lose a ton of productivity and output.
That makes a lot of sense. Go ahead.
I had a friend that had a shitty manager and he was like, I keep telling them I've got bandwidth and they don't give me anything to do. So I'm on Xbox all day. And I'm like, well, I would be too, because how much can you plead with your manager to give me work to do?
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And the fact that going back to the people in the federal government, I think that you said there's not really people stepping up to say you got to go back to work, and absolutely there are. But it's the CEOs of the companies that have positions where the people really don't need to be in the office. And maybe it was a job that was in the office, but then of course you send everybody home and realize like I'm getting more done. Right. So so it's the wrong people that are pushing this, and I think that those people are hiding with the people who legitimately have a claim to be like, why do I need to sit in traffic for an hour to just sit on a computer and not talk to anybody in a cubicle?
Right. I actually got more work done than when they'd asked me to come into the office for a week. And the reason was I didn't have a commute. So I started every day at 6:30, 7 o'clock.
There you go.
I worked till 5. I was working through lunch because what else was I going to do?
Yeah.
You just did it. You actually put in more work and got more accomplished. That's a rarity, but it does happen. And I think we've got to take a look at, because one of the things I talk about in Blue Dawn is part of the economic problems that the government is facing in my book series is the collapse of what happened in the commercial real estate space. We're still building office buildings while we have 40% of the people not going back to work.
That's not good.
And
well, we need somewhere for the illegal criminal aliens to go, right?
Well, and I actually talked with an architect about that once, and I said, can you take like office buildings and just turn them into apartments? And he goes, no. The HVAC systems are built centrally. The electrical systems are all built centrally. You don't have plumbing for all the toilets and sinks and stuff that you need for an apartment.
But residential for an American citizen or residential for somebody who's, wherever else?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't know how they're paying for that. And if you do that, remember the whole thing about people being in cages down at the border? Mm-hmm. That's what they'll say if you just, shuffle them into these buildings. The problem is the commercial real estate market is only now starting to wrap its hands around what's going to come, which is going to be a big bust. There's a lot of people who own a lot of commercial real estate who don't have revenue coming in.
So how do you think that's going to play out?
Well, if you don't have, you're going to have a ton of bankruptcies. You're going to have a bunch of buildings sitting abandoned. It's going to really alter the space of downtown, because you can't just easily convert these to apartments or to anything else. You can't go, oh, well, we'll turn this 20-story building into a data center. It's not wired for that. It's not hooked up for that.
And so, and that goes right into whether you believe it fully or call it a conspiracy theory or whatever. BlackRock and Vanguard are definitely buying a lot of real estate in this country, and that's only going to make it easier.
Well, if you look back at 2008, and I'm sure you've seen the movie The Big Short, a lot of it was people overextended. Well, if you're owning a bunch of commercial real estate and it's empty right now, you're overextended, and it's not going to get better. It's people, once they got a taste of working at home, you're going to have to kick and drag them to bring them back.
Oh yeah. Being a dog trainer, I'm at home, I drive to my clients. I usually try to put them one after another. So I go out for a few hours. I drive a lot, but I make my own schedule. I could not do a 9 to 5. I could not do a 9 to 5. I mean, I was before I was with this company, I was working, 40 hours a week, just as like I was working at Petco as the dog trainer, but there wasn't a lot of dogs to train. So I was basically a glorified cashier and just standing for 8 hours straight every day. Oh. And even if I had a chair, I can't do that. I can't, I'm not built that way. I'm not built that way.
No, a lot of people aren't. It's, we are going to be dealing with the residual crap from this pandemic for the next 50 years. And I think it's going to shake out in a lot of ways that none of us can fully comprehend or predict at this point.
Be prepared for the unexpected. I mean, how many of you expected that they would actually go after Trump? And I mean, we've been saying it since the beginning, but I mean, I don't, maybe, you writing the Blue Dawn series is like, yep, this is right on schedule. But I think for the rest of us, we knew that they were going to try this trick and that and that and that and that. But, I did not expect a guilty verdict.
I did. I fully expected a guilty verdict. I fully expect him to put him under house arrest so he can't be on the campaign trail, or put him in prison. I don't think there's anything they won't do at this point, because they're not really good at pivoting when something isn't working.
Right.
And, I saw on Tim Pool tonight that one of the jurors apparently leaked it out to a relative, and, Tim had the best thing of all. He goes, well, that's a retrial. So now they're going to do another 6 weeks of tying Trump up in court.
Oh, great.
And so there's a point. There's a point where this is ridiculous, and
the sentencing isn't even until July, but there's already leaks of how they're trying to break up the sentencing to make it under a year for this thing, so that they can send him to Rikers and get rid of his Secret Service. And I mean, I don't, these are rumors. I don't know how legitimate that is, but the fact that that's being talked about, and the fact that that's being talked about already, and the fact that I know about it and other people know about it, that's scary. I mean, do you think they would, take him out?
I have been worried about that for the last 6 months, more so than before. In the Blue Dawn series, he gets killed as a character in the first book. Do I think that they would do it? Absolutely, because everything else they've tried has failed. It's actually backfired on them. I mean, I saw the latest poll. The state of Virginia, which was a solid blue, is now 48%, both Biden and Trump. And if you throw in Kennedy, Trump wins Virginia, which, they thought Virginia was a safe haven. And now the election is up in the air. And up in the air being, it's a good chance that Donald Trump is going to secure the presidency again. They are whipping people up with this rhetoric of he's going to be the end of democracy. He's going to arrest everybody. He's going to be a dictator. He's going to do all this stuff. That is all designed, in my opinion, to whip someone up to the point where they go, you know what? I'm going to be Lee Harvey Oswald or John Hinckley or Jack Ruby. I'm going to make a name for myself and take out this dictator, and everybody's going to love me. And we're in a society where I think you're going to get some loons that try that.
I mean, I'd be surprised if that hasn't happened, multiple times already. I'm more afraid that, he's gonna, mysteriously get sick from the, tainted meat or whatever. Oh no, he's sick, and oh no, like, and the way, what is it, Kim Jong Un's brother,
Yeah.
like, and you can't, I mean, look at Epstein. I mean,
Yeah.
when you do
Cameras
it the
were
right way.
mysteriously turned off.
Yeah, yeah. When you do it the right way, I mean, we could know, I mean, what's the I don't know if you're familiar with Luke Rukowski's on Timcast all the time, and he's got the bestpoliticalshirts.com. He's got one that says Epstein did not Epstein himself. Brilliant. And it's its own meme now. And the fact that they are going as far as they've gone shows me that it's either going to be take out Trump or replace Biden. I do not see the election being Biden and Trump.
Now I've had this. This was a yearly. We do a yearly prediction of the Council of Future Conflicts, and I was the only person that said they won't replace Biden. And I'm going to give you my logic in this,
okay?
Because I lived through this with Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter, when he ran for his second term, was in the middle of a hostage crisis with Iran. There were hundreds of Americans being held hostage. The economy was petering out. We were in recession at that point. There were so many things that were against Carter. He had launched a military raid to rescue the hostages, and it resulted in a disaster out in the desert. Guys got killed, and they didn't save anybody. But the problem was he was the incumbent. And there's this belief that, well, Biden beat Trump once, so he'll do it again. And once they made him the candidate, he's very hard to replace. Because if you replace him, what you're essentially saying is, you guys were all right. He's mentally incompetent, physically unable to do the job. We lied all along. They have to say that in order to replace him.
But is that better or worse than trying to pretend that he's just all there?
But he's the perfect candidate. Because he's literally like Ron Burgundy. He reads whatever's on the teleprompter. And
we've seen San Diego.
We've seen him do it, and he literally is not in control of what his policies are and what he's signing. I don't think he knows often what he has signed his name to. He is a completely boneless, spineless old man who they trot out occasionally for a public appearance. And he's the perfect candidate. If you think about it, if you're a Democrat, he's the guy, and you're in power, he's the guy you want as president, because whoever gets to him gets whatever they want.
Did you see the most recent thing with Biden at the D-Day anniversary?
Well, yeah, there were so many moments to that. First, he called it June 5th, and it was supposed to be June 6th. When he squatted down and dropped his own bomb on Normandy, and then they immediately came out with an announcement that Biden wasn't pooping his pants. And I was like, sure. I was sitting here going, that's an odd thing for you to say. And then Jill whisked him off, right afterwards, and just left the French president there greeting the veterans. He didn't stick around at all.
Yeah. In case you didn't see, really quick, let's just go there. They're shaking hands, all the veterans back here, and the plan, this Macron and his husband, wife, and the plan was for them to, give this speech with the teleprompter, and then, shake all the hands.
Yeah, and you could tell she's whispering to him. She's covering her mouth.
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to say, like, he was just trying to sit down. Like, if he was standing and he went like that and then stood back up, or if he just sat right down while everybody was standing up, that would be a reasonable thing. But to tell me that in those 3 seconds, Joe Biden had the thought, I should sit down. No, I shouldn't sit down. Well, actually, I should stand up. You know what? I'm going to sit.
Hey, I
not
sent you the meme I created when I saw that image. I just put it up in your Twitter, so you could see my version of this was pretty straightforward.
Let's see what we got here. Crone's wife saying, "Are you seeing this?" Crone's like, "I'm literally being shit on by the president of the United States." And Jill's over here, honey. That's not what they mean when they were talking about bombing Normandy.
And I wanted to do one with the veteran between the two leaders, and have him go, "Hey, we have the same brand of depends."
That would have been so when we get a comment, an amazing comment like that, we call it the comment of the night, and dilly to that.
Well, but it's amazing that we see this stuff, and it is so blatantly obvious what's going on, and nobody seems to care because the mainstream media refuses to cover it, and it's just like what we saw with the Hunter Biden laptop. This last week, the FBI came in and said, this laptop has not been altered. It's not been tampered with. This is actually Hunter Biden's laptop. These are his tweets. These are his pictures. This is the evidence. Now, I remember Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes telling Trump this was all Russian disinformation during the election. And Trump's like, what do? You had these 52, senior intelligence people who signed a letter saying it was intelligence.
That's the biggest clue that it was real. That's the biggest clue that it was real.
Yeah, that was just like, of course that's it. And I love the fact, the Wall Street Journal just ran an article, because I follow this stuff a lot, and they just ran an article where 45 members of Congress on both parties, by the way, have said Joe Biden's mental acuity has diminished. That they have seen a progression, that he mumbles when he's in meetings, or he has to read off note cards and things along those lines.
Well, I'm not supposed to answer those questions.
Well, everybody in his administration comes out and goes, "Oh no, Joe's brilliant. When you don't see him on camera, he's amazing.
Oh yeah, those are
he's the
bad
sharpest
moments.
guy in the room. He's out doing push-ups on the front lawn. He's out doing it. Oh my God, he just ran the Army 10-miler, and he just solved nuclear fusion. He's doing all this stuff." And I thought Jon Stewart, who usually is pretty left-leaning, was like, "Can we see those tapes? Like, just show us those tapes."
Well, and I think that's the line of the line between whether you're willing to, because I don't think there's anybody who is really questioning at this point. I think it's all name recognition, and the maybe not everybody has completely decided, but everybody has one of them that they're never going to vote for. Correct. And so, they may, maybe they're going to sit out, or maybe they'll vote for the other guy or whatever. But there's one guy that, either there's no way I'm voting for Trump, and there's no way I'm voting for Biden. And I just think that for a long time, they were trying to, whisk up support. And now they've switched the message to just being like, well, yeah, he's bad, but Trump. And I think there's a certain sect of people who that is still working on. So I say still because I was one of those people who was working on in 2016, as everybody here loves to remind me that I did begrudgingly vote for Hillary. I was so scared of voting because of the news that even in 2020 I was still like, you know what, let me just make sure. And so now definitely voting for Trump. If they take him off or something, I'm writing him in or whatever. But it's the level of conspiracy. And so the if you can see through the playbook of first say that it's not happening, then when it starts happening more, then switch to, oh, well, that's just, a cherry-picked incident here or there. And then as soon as you get to the critical tipping point, then you switch it all around. Like, of course this is happening. Of course, this is a great thing. You're a bigot if you don't like it. Pick anything. Pick any of the issues with the, you could pick the border, you could pick the trans stuff, you could pick the schooling, you could pick whatever it is. First, it's not happening. Then it's only happening here or there. You're making a big deal. You're becoming conspiracy theorists. And then, boom, oh, no, yeah, of course that's happening. But that's a good thing. You're not in favor of that. And I think the people who can see that are in the camp of, okay, I'm not voting for Joe Biden. And the people who just, swallow everything that mainstream media and the government puts out are, no way I'm voting for Trump. And it's a sad thing because we can see that it's not all above board. The government has never been all above board, but people feel the need to dig their heels in because they hate Trump and just trust everything that's coming out because it's anti-Trump.
Well, I think politicians also project what they are as traits of what the other person is. So they're going, democracy will end if Donald Trump's elected. Well, let me put it to you this way. Donald Trump was already elected. If he didn't want to step down last time, he would have not stepped down last time. Okay. And not only that, who's tried to get the other candidate removed from the ballot?
Yeah.
That wasn't the Republicans.
You think about the full circle that the Trump the Trump supporters were the ones who said, lock her up. How dare the worst thing in the world. But now you're actually doing it and you're trying to tell me that it's okay.
Yes. They've turned around, who's tried to block him getting on the ballot, had to go all the way to the Supreme Court. They've tried putting him through all this legal stuff. They're trying to take half of his fortune in a lawsuit case. They're trying to bankrupt the guy. They're trying to throw him in jail, and they're salivating over this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with Alex Jones. I don't know if you just heard that they already did the $1.5 billion settlement, but it was now, and he had to sell InfoWars. And I don't watch Alex Jones, but he's been right about a lot more than people want to give him credit for.
Well, who's the real threat to democracy here? I haven't seen Donald Trump actually take away anybody's rights. I haven't seen Donald Trump do any of these things, but I've seen you do it to him. And I got to be honest with you, it scares me a little bit that if you're willing to do it to a president or a presidential candidate, what are you going to do to somebody like me? I write fiction books about a second American Civil War. They're going to go, hey, Blaine needs to be on a target watch list, and Blaine needs,
And even saying that is treated as a conspiracy theory of like, that's just what Trump says. It's it's working backwards from the position that, you're just going to listen the obviously or ironically projected idea that, whatever Trump says, you're just going to follow it. It's like, no, we're saying what's good, and Trump is also saying what's good. Y'all are the ones who are lying all together, and maybe you don't see the lie, but it's a lie.
Yeah,
I still, there's a very intelligent liberal dude in the Discord community who just cannot accept that, whether you like the word or not, that the Trump trial is lawfare. It's like, no, yeah, it's simple things like, okay, well, what was the felony charge? And he can't answer. But he did this, and it's like, and it's like, dude, why would he do this? Why would he do this? I remember when I was an ever-Trumper in 2015, and I was, starting to have political arguments with my dad, and he was early on the Trump train, and I made fun of him so much for it because I thought it was so stupid, as so many did. And he was making the argument back then. Why would he go through this? He's already rich. He's already loved. He's already whatever. He can just, keep being, he can keep being him. But and I was like, I thought it was a reasonable position to be like, he's just got such a big ego that he's won at everything else in life that he's got to win at this.
What?
Yeah.
Stupid. I don't claim that now. I was stupid. But now it's like he already was the president. He doesn't need to do this again. He could have avoided this entire. And I asked him, I was like, are you telling me that you genuinely believe that nobody, not one person, has gone to Trump and been like, we'll drop everything if you don't run? Not one? And I mean, I don't know how you can believe that. I don't know how you can believe that.
Well, and we all know that this, look at this. These are charges that go back to the 2016 election. If these were really important charges, why didn't you bring them up before 2020? If you had a legitimate case,
when the statute of limitations hadn't run out.
Right. But why didn't you do it then? Well, because we really didn't have a case. Well, you really didn't have a case now either. And it's more and more what they've done is the impossible. Okay, to the Democrats' credit, I'm going to give them credit here. They have done the impossible. They have made Trump a sympathetic figure. Do you know how hard that is?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is really, I honestly, I don't know anyone who could pull that off. But
like talking about Ron Burgundy, I'm not even mad. I'm just impressed.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like, but and then literally because it's not working, they're continuing to push forward to do more of it. It's like, you guys, you literally are going to put him on trial all the way into the White House. Think about what you're doing.
And I mean, I believe that this is an existential election, and I know we kind of always have that type of extreme language, but I genuinely do believe that if they're willing to do all of this, then they certainly are not going to let it get this far again. And so it's very clear that they're gonna do whatever they need to do, which is why I believe taking him out is not out of the question. And so if they do that and there's no Trump figure, and then like I don't think that MAGA is Trump. I think that it's the other way around, that he's a symptom of the issues. But there needs to be a he needs to be in office. And the way I've been talking about it is that like the Democratic establishment, the Uniparty, both of them, the GOP, all of that, we got to talk about the split between the GOP, but the Uniparty Democratic establishment is in a car careening us off a cliff. And I think a vote for Trump is to vote to just stand still, to just not even to go backwards, just to stand still and to figure out, okay, how do we not careen off of this cliff?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that they view it as the end of everything that they want. And yeah, there are going to be some things that just get pulled. I mean, we can't afford the Green New Deal, and we can't afford to be building, millions of charging stations and forcing Americans to buy a car. Let Americans buy whatever
the climate.
Car they want.
What about the climate?
Look, I spent time in India as part of my job, and I can tell you, we're not the problem here. The pollution we generate, I've got news for you. It's nothing compared to what I experienced in India.
India and China.
And China's worse.
Yeah.
And
and that's the type of thing that I didn't I would say the two biggest things that, from my Never Trump days that I actually learned that I was so terribly wrong was, the climate change and gun control. Like, I still don't know a lot about guns. I've never shot a gun, held a gun a couple of times, but I'm in Jersey. I'm trying to, eventually move out to somewhere where I can get it. But I never really understood the reason that people loved guns so much until somebody just explained it to me. And because I was willing to listen, and I was like, that does make sense. And thinking about, just like, well, who do you call? Why would if you think the cops are so bad, why do you want them to have all the arguments that just people don't think about? And then same thing with the climate change, realizing like, wait a minute, they say all this stuff, but yeah, Zippy, the climate is fine. Stop trying to fix God. You can't fix her.
Well, and Zippy's right. Honest to God, this is not, if you think giving money to the government in the form of taxes is going to alter your weather, you are freaking delusional.
Yep.
The Weather Service can't even tell us what the weather's going to be accurately tomorrow. And yet you believe they're going to be able to tell us that ocean levels are going to rise X% in the next 5 years and we're all going to be underwater. I've been hearing this crap my entire life.
And they all have beachfront property.
Right. Why is Obama living on Martha's Vineyard if it's going to be underwater? So don't feed me this BS, and then don't go, well, if you don't believe it, you're anti-science. No, I'm anti-reality or pro-reality. You guys are anti logical thinking.
It's straight up projection. Every aspect of left-wing politics, at least at the cultural level, seems to be just projecting that you are bad people. We want what we want. And because we're bad people, we have to make sure that you seem like the bad people so that you don't think about how we're the bad people.
Well, my publisher had me go down. Defiance Press actually had me attend the Texas GOP convention 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
so we actually had a booth there, and I got to meet people who were running for office and the actual delegates to the GOP convention. And it was amazing to talk to them about the issues that they're facing and the things that they think are important. And it's clearly the immigration issue. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, they're like, they were asking me as a Virginian, how do I feel about Texas putting barbed wire on the border and arresting people and etc. And I was like, of course,
let's go.
It makes sense.
Finally.
And they're like, yeah, but the federal government is suing us over this. They are telling us we can't protect our own property. And you want to talk about gun control, go to Texas and talk about guns. My wife was concerned because I've got this crazy stalker person, etc. And I said, I'm in the safest place I can be. I'm in a Texas GOP convention. If somebody draws a gun, there'll be 400 other people drawing their guns.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. But, this is a fundamental thing about the right to protect yourself. And it's also about personal responsibility. The argument is the gun is the problem. And I'm like, no, you're removing the actual person who pulls the trigger from that equation. I've got a gun that's sitting near me right now. It has never automatically decided to go on its own killing spree and shoot people.
That's wow. We should do an article about that. I've never heard of a gun.
A picture of it. Gun doesn't commit killing spree. It's day 2000 of my gun not killing anyone. But it's literally the idea of, well, we got to get rid of the guns. That'll solve the problem. Washington, D.C. has some of the strictest gun rules in the United States. You cannot go in that city with a loaded magazine. You cannot buy bullets in city. The laws in D.C. are just amazing. And every weekend there are 12 people that get shot, maybe 13, and 2 or 3 of them will be killed by guns. And so their argument is, well, they're getting them outside the city, so that's why we have to have a national ban. And I'm like, stupid. The laws don't work. It's like when you put up those signs, this near a school,
gun-free zone.
It's a gun-free zone or it's a drug-free zone. It's like it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's a great point. It said when you make an item the problem, you infantilize the human. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
You remove their personal responsibility, and you need to have that. And it's one of the reasons I cringe a little bit when they talk about, well, we're going to remove the marijuana laws and just make it easy. And I'm like, everybody that's brought that up, I said, here's what I want you to do. I want you to watch for one weekend the TV show On Patrol Live. It's on Reels. And it's literally policemen live filmed on Friday and Saturday nights and what they encounter on the streets. And I can't tell you the number. I don't even like driving anymore on Saturday nights because half the cars out there are people who don't have licenses, have open warrants, are drunk, or are very high. And I mean, to the point where like they'll roll down the window and the smoke billows out.
True, but as an advocate, I mean, you were saying the same thing,
Yeah.
that the issue with people and the law. If the law
Yeah.
is that you can't, if the law is that you can't drive while you're high, or certainly while you're smoking, then yeah, crack down on the people who are doing that. I don't think that
Right.
somebody like me who is just takes smokes a joint to get to sleep. I don't think that
I don't
is,
care
and I've
about
been arrested 3 times for marijuana. Thankfully, it's legal here now. But that again, I definitely got to push back on that, and I think it's the exactly what Zibby's talking about, the infantilization that lets people think that, well, I can I can do whatever I want. And then you see, like, you'll see body cam videos of just whether it's drunk driving or whatever else, and people know that it's legal, but they just think they're invincible. And like, fine, if you're a teenager and you think that, like, we all thought that. I definitely got behind the wheel sometimes, and I definitely should not have, but I'm not proud of it. But sorry, I'm over here. But the onus is on me to learn to be a more responsible adult and actually have accountability.
Well, and I'm not arguing with you on this.
Mhm.
I just want to say this. The reason I say take a look at this, the reason I would agree to having marijuana legalized nationwide is if we had a good test that someone was high on marijuana. That, much like a breathalyzer,
Mhm.
if I could hook you up to a device and go, you're over a legal limit,
Mhm.
I actually have no problem with it, because then we have a way to uniformly evaluate whether someone is under the influence of that drug when they're operating a vehicle.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree, and I mean,
And if we can do that, I don't care if it's legalized.
yeah, and I mean, we would definitely. The issue, I think, is when people try to equate it to alcohol, and the intoxication is just not the same. You have to treat it
It's
as
not.
its own thing, and
It
so
is a completely different impairment, and you can't use any of the traditional means to measure it.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, we've been on for almost 2 hours now. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But before we go, I do want to just ask a little bit more about what's been happening in the Blue Dawn series, and what you got coming. You also had we had on the thumbnail here another the Land&SEA.
Yeah, Land&SEA is a military sci-fi series set 20 years in the future. It's an alien invasion, and it's military sci-fi. It's good old fashioned. There's nothing political in it at all. It's just aliens and mecha, and it's a blast. I
Nice.
love writing that series. I'm working on a book right now for that. We did 6 books last year in that series to launch it. And so the next trilogy is coming, and I'm really pumped about it. It's been a lot of fun. I've been working with, I don't know if you've ever heard of Mike Barron. He's a comic book writer. He wrote The Punisher back in the 1990s.
Oh, okay.
He wrote like the stuff that really defined the Punisher. He and I have started a new series, which will upset a lot of lefties.
Nice.
It's called Tenure. And think of it this way. The pitch line was, it's the Punisher, but he's killing the woke people.
I am interested.
Okay. So
I am interested.
And I'm doing it with a guy who helped define who the Punisher is in comic book form. So,
and
Mike
what did you have a name for that already?
Yeah, it's called Tenure.
Tenure. All right. Well, we'll definitely have to look out for that.
That book, I just got back from the editor today, so I've got to go through and do the edits with that and with Mike, and so hopefully that'll be out later this summer. And I'm just having the Blue Dawn series has been so much fun, because it's really moved now into the Second American Civil War, and what that war would look like and how it's divided. Because I think a lot of people go, it'd be North versus South, or it's state by state. It's not. It's the urban areas versus the rural areas. And that's a fundamental difference from what we went through in the first Civil War. And, it's a very different asymmetrical form of warfare. And I've kept the United States military out of it. So you have a lot of National Guard units and a lot of militia units and social enforcers out there doing stuff for the bad guys. And it's just been it's a great series to read, because I think a lot of people, especially with that movie Civil War that just came out, and
I have
stuff,
to see that. I heard it was pretty cringy, but I haven't seen it
heard
myself.
it was too. But it didn't get into the politics stuff. And
Mhm.
Blue Dawn does that. It gives you the framework of how we end up in a conflict. And I've been right about a lot of this stuff. So I enjoy it. It's been interesting to go through. I've had a number of people say, stop getting stuff right. And
Yeah, please. For real, please stop.
And I do joke all the time that I think the left is buying my books and flipping through it for ideas. So
I wouldn't be surprised. I would
Oh,
not
yeah.
be surprised.
Oh, you're gonna tenure to your patron here. Tenure is fun because he goes after an Antifa cell, and let's just put it this way: it's like Death Wish. It's, if you've ever seen the original movie Death Wish, if you've ever seen the movie Falling Down,
Yeah, I've seen.
I've
seen Death Wish.
this
I don't
is
remember, yeah.
this is using brute force and violence to achieve your goal.
Nice. Shout out to Bryson here. Saying I've driven a Sky Pilot many times. It's impairing for sure. Not the alcohol, but impairment is impairment. But meth makes you infallible and wrong. Okay, well, yeah, we definitely need to get those tests in order. Even evil
Zippy,
can only
you got it.
Zippy, when Zippy's on, Zippy is on. Contact here says the left always take our fictional warnings and turn them into guidebooks.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, again, we'll watch a little bit of the conversation that we had so many years ago after we let Blaine go. But before you do, any last words for the people? Anybody who wasn't here at the beginning? Who are you? Where can they find you? And what do you do?
Look, I'm a New York Times bestselling author. You can find me on Facebook and on Twitter primarily. Obviously, you can look my name up on Amazon.com. You're going to see a whole bunch of really cool books. I invite you to sink your teeth into Blue Dawn or the Land and Sea series and have some fun with it. We need good entertainment, and one series is very political. The other has zip political in it. It's all military action.
Beautiful. All right, we got one question before you leave from Glomtech. Do you prefer 1984 or Brave New World?
Well, I'm living in 1984 right now, so I honestly, I think 1984. I think we are seeing stuff memory hold all the time now by the mainstream media and by various social media platforms, etc. I saw the funniest thing with Maxine Waters the other day going, Trump's going to go after people he politically doesn't like. I think we should open an investigation and go through his campaign funds. And I'm like, you literally are doing the thing you just accused him of.
Projection.
Yeah, it's the weirdest stuff. And, I couldn't, if I told you that 10 years ago that we were going to be living like this, you would have thought I was a madman. Congratulations, we're living it.
Yep, indeed. You absolutely predicted the future. And again, I'm with the people. I would like you to stop being right, because more of this is not what I want. I will say that
my wife will tell you the other things I get wrong. Okay,
fair enough.
I make up for it in other places.
Fair enough. I mean, I will say that I do think, we're kind of moving in the right direction. I think the left is still, that woke idea that's ill-defined. That's still, the main thing. But we are tampering down on it, and more people are starting to come to the light, if you will.
I think so.
But yeah, this was a great time. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Just like we did 3 years ago, we got to not keep so much time in between.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. We and there is an Indiegogo link. So the links to
we're doing a graphic novel.
oh, nice. So yeah, there's a link for the Blue Dawn stuff. There's a link for the Land&SEA stuff, and there's an Indiegogo link. Real quick before you go, what can they donate to?
Hey, the Indiegogo is a graphic novel for the Land&SEA universe. It's a standalone story in the universe. You can see pages of the stuff up there. We built the universe with this in mind. We knew we were going to do this graphic novel, and it's just been as a kid, I always wanted to do my own comic books, but I can barely draw stick people. To be a part of doing a comic book at my age, I gotta tell you, I'm feeling 8 years old all over again.
Nice. I mean, that's beautiful to find that allows you to find that youthful thing that exists in all of us. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very, very much for hanging out. And like I said, we'll definitely have to do this again soon.
Cool. Thanks for having me on. Everybody have a great weekend.
You as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And have a good night. Take care. All right, guys. Shout out to the Uncle Junior Network. Look at him. He's going to be like, are you going to give me a treat or what? It's already here, Mark. There you go. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very, very, very much. I really, really do appreciate that. And I did put the link to the Uncle Junior Network's channel in the chat. Please definitely go check them out. So here's what are we gonna do? So we're not quite. We didn't even hit the 2 hour mark yet. So I'm gonna drop the link. If anybody wants to come up, come on up. But I do think it'll be cool to go through some of this conversation. It was in the midst of the lockdowns. It was in the midst of COVID. There was so much going on, and just to kind of see what was happening. We're obviously not going to watch the whole thing, but yeah. What did I miss here? Good question, Quamtech. Good question. We are living in a combination of the two. Brendan said, I wish I got here sooner. I have to review it later. Sounds like an interesting guess. Yeah, for real. I mean, so basically, long story short, TLDR, he has a book series called Blue Dawn, where the Wokies take over. And this is from 2021 when he had just finished the second book. Now he's working on he's got the 5 books out, working on the 6th. There's no shortage of lefty woke BS. So, and then again, the links to both the Indiegogo for, I think he said that was for, I'm bad with this shit. I think he said that was for the tenure thing. But anyway, it is in the description, as well as the Amazon links to both the Land&SEA series, as well as the Blue Dawn series. And shout out to the Uncle Junior Network. Hit that like button on Uncle Junior Network. Come on, give the man some love. And so, of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. So again, let me put I did pin it. Yeah, so the link is pinned. Come on up if you want to hang out. We'll just do whatever. And then we're going to the after party. So I'll just back this up in case. Actually, no, let's go from the beginning. I want to show you guys. Before I was the Indian Jesus, this was this was my 11th episode. I dry B. I didn't read your book. And the idea here was, I'll talk to authors and not read their book, so that you guys and me together. The plan was to have live viewers. That never happened. Yeah, the idea is that, I didn't read the book. Y'all didn't read the book. How often are we, just picking up random books? So let's talk to the author and see what's good. All right. Tell me what you think of the intro. And then that was a huge mistake. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Why would I choose 10 a.m.? Why? I was working as a server when this started. Why? And so every Wednesday, I would set an alarm, be awake, watch this. Sometimes my dad would be in the chat because I would do it as a live premiere. And I don't know. I don't know why that was a thing. was it, bro? What? I don't believe how much darker you were back then. Pulling on Michael Jackson. Well, it has to do a lot with the fact that, you know, work's been really slow. So that year, I was working like a maniac. You don't understand. Gotcha. Yeah, I was working like a maniac. So I was outside a lot. Like now, work is slow, and these are the only lights that I'm under. You know, I obviously walk Morty every day, but that ain't gonna get as dark. But as the summer comes on, then remember this, because I do get that dark. You have to sped up, but fucking loser. "2021, I was on that temple shit before you even know it was good." So I want you guys to roast the shit out of this, because I mean, why not? Oh, the hair is so bad. This is when my hair wasn't actually fully grown out. So here, the top is long, but the side is really short. Because before I had this hairstyle, I had the comb over with the a fade. So like it was all fade. I had to wait. So no sound from the video. Oh, god damn it. I wasn't really saying anything yet. Oh, I did it again. Share system audio of just political. Yeah, I was. I forgot what I was saying. Was I saying anything important? I don't think so. We'll figure it out. It's going around the compound that they is the yeah, but yeah, let me know how this have, and just kind of creating culture outside of just political punditry, if you want to call it that. And okay, all right. Well, I mean, I haven't really said anything yet. I haven't said anything funny yet. So as long as you can hear now, though, right? I just want. And so sometimes they will do fan mail, openings, and they got a bunch of packages and. Okay, I was talking about. And he has a blog channel where they just kind of film stuff that's going around the compound. Talking about Cass Castle that they have, and early just kind of creating culture outside of just political punditry, if you want to call it that. And so sometimes they will do fan mail, openings, and they got a bunch of packages, and they opened one up, and it was today's book by Blaine Pardoe called Blue Dawn. Remember the mail opening videos? Remember? And I didn't even recognize the play on words until somebody, I think it was Tim, maybe somebody else in the video was like, oh, like Red Dawn. So I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot about that until I just heard myself say that again. I'm guessing we are the fact that it is a blue versus instead of Red Dawn, and the fact that I saw it being sent to someone who I go to for politics, I'm going to assume that it has something to do with politics and to do with the change in our culture and how the left side of things have not been well received by some people. So this was the format that I would open up and kind of give a preamble. Bring this was high level editing, getting the actual book to fade on screen. I used to just bring it up on my phone and be like, well, that's the cover. And so I did a thing called judging the book by its cover and reading the back of the book. So this part, before we get to Blaine, this part I would put out on Mondays as just like a little teaser. Nobody was watching, but I was still doing my damn thing. Again, I haven't read the book, so I don't really know. But that's what I get from just the. And this is at 1.25, guys. Cover and name moving. Just so you can I'm for it. So let's dive right in. This is normal. This was and read the back of the book. Almost 5 years ago, America, as everyone knew it, came to an abrupt end in a spectacular coup d'etat. It was called the liberation by those progressives and radicals that screamed for its outcome, the fall. No, it's by screamed for its outcome, the fall by that was supposed to be edited. Its victims whose freedoms were trampled. The White House and the Capitol were overrun by anarchists, and leaders of our once proud nation were either imprisoned or sent to social quarantine. You missed the whole thing. You missed the whole thing. No, it's good. It was good though. Check out the replay, and we're checking that. That was no. This is the normal speed. This is the normal speed. Before it was at 1.25. Before it was at 1.25. This is normal, and then I'm gonna bring it back up to 125 cams. The president was arrested and eventually died in prison, or so everyone was led to believe. To be fair, I am reading. America was rebooted in a new progressive socialist image. New America. The United States of old was gone. 1.5. Its history erased and rewritten. Its icons destroyed. By the time people tried to organize resistance, it was too late. The citizens lost their history, their flag, their traditions, their freedoms, and their leaders. New America is a state of reparations. Citizens turning on citizens, where even the churches are targets of social justice. 5 years later, an unlikely group of patriots emerges from the shadows, seeking a restoration of their nation. Two Secret Service agents struggle with their secrets from the night. Stupid. One son of a patriotic college professor struggles with his father's legacy and the important artifacts that his father managed to preserve. A young man finds himself face to face with the lies of the New America government. Comes face to face with the lies the New America government has told him and forced him to become a fugitive. A covert operative of the new government seeks out the truth about the traitor president's fate while coming to terms with her own dark past. Twists of fate or destiny bring these people together with a mission of trying to save what is left of the once United States. Time is running out as the forces of the government hunt down this group of renegades, hoping to smother once and for all any trace of what was America. Ripped from today's headlines, best-selling and award-winning author Blaine Pardoe presents an eerily realistic view of an alternate history political thriller where conservatism is a crime and patriotism is treason. So, that was intense. I don't like the sound of where that was going. And I think that is a obviously hyperbolic and exaggerated, but very accurate view of how a lot of people see what the current trajectory of our politics. That seems to be where people think we are going. So again, all this is before I've ever talked to Blaine at all. So I'm just going based on the that's why it's called judging the cover, judging the book by its cover and reading the back of the book. I do that and kind of give a thing. There was one book that was called Peace, Love, and Gravity, I think, or something like that. Is that too fast? I can slow it down. But like the cover was it looked like it had like a clock and like an hourglass, and I saw gravity, and so I was like, oh, maybe this is like a time travel love story, and so I was saying all that kind of stuff in the reading the back of the book section. Then I bring on the author, this lady, and I'm like, so is this what I just said, and she's like, no, this is a true story about how my husband died 6 months ago. Whoops. All right, I'll slow it down for you, Stephanie. I got you. Shout out to Jay. Welcome. You missed the guest, but I would definitely suggest going back and listening. Holy shit, this is scary how close all of this is to real life right now. I know you guys talked a lot about it during the show, but I was half in and half out due to work. Gonna listen in full later. Yeah, man. That's why fictional in the title is in quotes. Like, it's fictional. Is it though? Personally, I see where I see that. I see how I see the pathways for that. Do I necessarily think that the United States as we know it is going to fall? I would love to say no. There we go, 7. That's as slow as I can go listening to myself. That's 1.25. Oh, I'm not going to say yes. I don't think it is definitely going to fall, but I do think that we are in a precarious position that if we keep going the way that we're going, that we can cross certain lines that can't be uncrossed. I think we're operating right now in this this kind of gray area where things are heading in not so great of a direction, but things also aren't so far gone as they seem to be in New America
in 2024.
And so I guess the biggest question is, what are, number one, what is the core problem with progressivism and wokeism and all that stuff, which I assume Blaine is talking about here. And two, what do we do about it? And I certainly don't know. I've always done my best to spit it out, man.
truth.
Spit it out.
Well,
God damn
hate
it.
that
I just said that. Speak what I see as the truth, and try to report reality as it is. And not that I'm a reporter, but when I talk about things, I like to, I don't like to engage in bad faith conversations just because it may not adhere to what I believe and what is going to make me look good. Smart guy. There's a lot of times I don't know what I'm talking about, and if that's the case, this is all stuff you guys have heard me say a million times before. Without further ado, let's bring in Blaine. So that's where I would end the video, and that would be its own video, and then I would edit that with the conversation that. All right, and welcome to Blaine Pardoe. How you doing today, Blaine? I think I'm wearing a different shirt.
I'm doing well. How are you?
And you'll notice there's no seat back because I'm sitting in that chair. Upgraded. Very, very well. Well, not as well after reading what is apparently going to happen to this nation. It was a bit alarming reading the back of your book. And as I was saying in the reading the back of the book segment, I definitely see where this is 1.25 this type of thinking comes from, and I definitely see how somebody could think, oh, this is definitely going to happen like tomorrow, kind of thing. And it doesn't seem like from reading it that is your position, that this is a story and that this is a sensationalized version. But it also does seem to be a very real warning. So I guess my question to you is, how realistic do you intend for this story to replicate real life? More than you know, Blaine. More than you know.
Well, I had a friend of mine, when he went through the book, he said, gee, we're only 2 bad days from this actually happening. And in many respects, that's true. A lot of what I pulled from the book, I really pulled from contemporary media sources. And I simply amplified those or went with them as they were presented. The concept of a nationalized police force, for example, is something Barack Obama floated as an idea at one point during his tenure as president. The concept that there was going to be retribution against Trump supporters is something that AOC made very clear, in her efforts. So, a lot of what's there is based on actual premises that politicians have floated or other people have floated, and it's simply provided in a more narrative, digestible format. I think writing at this time in history a nonfiction version of what things might look like under a progressive state or a socialist state is very difficult to do, because for every time you present a fact now, somebody's got 3 counterfacts, and it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, by the way. This is bipartisan in terms of the fact is there are no facts anymore. And so to me, I thought it was more interesting to actually just do what I enjoy doing, which is writing a fictional story. And this is a fictional story that leverages some of those components and tells them in a way that people can engage with. And I think that's healthier that way. It's a little bit more digestible for people, and it backs away from your natural defenses where you want to argue the point, and you start just dealing with the characters and what they're going through, etc. So for me, that's been the real fun of it, from my perspective. I will say that not all people have drifted into that. I've had people refer to this as, this is Proud Boy porn, which I didn't even know was a thing. And I don't, I had to look up what the Proud Boys were, even, just so that we're all clear. I'm not
all
like some
know
crazy
now
political fanatic, but I follow politics because it's entertaining. At the same time, I've had people go, this scares the hell out of me because it seems pretty realistic and it seems like this is something that could happen. That's good. That tells me I've gotten close, and it makes it so people can engage with the characters, I think. So
interesting. And so I think that, to exactly what you're saying, the fact that half the people see it as the liberation and half the people see it as the fall, I think is this is the new version. So you realize how the idea that I hate hearing my voice on the answering machine. You remember that? That's gone now, because kids are used to hearing their voices on recordings since they're children because of their parents. This is the new version of that. Holy shit. is, just spot on. And how long ago did you write this?
I finished the book just prior to the election last year.
Okay.
So it was,
November 2021. So this was right before my my 31st birthday.
Was a little creepy about certain aspects of it. I actually have an attack on the U.S. Capitol being done by a progressive mob. But I actually have an attack on the U.S. Capitol being done by a progressive mob, an Antifa group swarming the Capitol, and it to the point where my publisher and I were even communicating, going, like, this isn't some publicity stunt that's unfolding on TV, right? Like, you're not doing this. Like, no, I'm not anywhere near DC. What happened there?
That'd be a hell of a marketing campaign.
Was a national disgrace more than anything. We could spend hours arguing whether it was an insurrection or an intrusion or whatever, but I'm a historian, so I tend to poke at things from that perspective. But it's pretty accurate in terms of some of the things that unfolded. There are obviously some things I took some creative liberty with to kind of set the stage for this universe.
Nice mug. So giant red or gray ass thing. So I mean, the link to that is in the description, and it is up on the channel. There's a I didn't read your book playlist if you want to go back and look at those. But yeah, I think we got all this that we can out of it. I thought that was a really good conversation, and I am ready to head over to the after party. I see that nobody is there. So I don't know if that's going to be happening, but if you all remember, then you might want to head over to the after party before there ain't no after party. Nobody wanted to come up? Nothing? Let's shout out our boys. We had the Funk Master General with the $10 super chat, being so respectful, like, yo, don't even stop the conversation for this. Of course we're gonna stop the conversation for this. I learned not to go from the go from this and be like, hey, yeet the guest off of the screen. But you guys are always gonna come first. And of course, then we had the Uncle Junior Network sponsoring the whole damn thing. Thank you so very much, guys. I really do appreciate it. And let me know what you thought of the conversation. What could I both this one and this one. What did you notice about how I've changed? What have I gotten better at? What are some things that maybe you see there that you don't do that anymore? Let me know what is going on. Thank you. Oh my goodness. He's like, hell no, ain't nobody taking the sponsor spot from me. Let's get this out of the way. And there you go. What does Funk Master say? This election is certainly the most important one in our history, but the aftershock is what will shape the future. Ooh. Fucking bars. That is such an important point. And that should be what I'm saying when I say that this is an existential election, and that a vote for Biden is careening us off the cliff, and a vote for Trump is a standstill. Because that standstill, you're still near the edge of a cliff. So what you do after will shape our future. Beautifully said. And of course, making yourself the co-sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very, very much. And 1,000% spot on. And again, your third super chat on a live stream. Yay! Oh, yay! It says it every time. I love it. Thank you so much, brother. I really do appreciate it. So head on over to the after party. We are raging. It is not done. This is just the end of this stream. This stream is ending, but we are headed over to the after party. Well, no, we're still here, but I'm saying I'm about to end it now. So yeah, join the Discord, bro. If here, I'll drop the link again for you. Boom. Come on through. It is free to hang out and talk with us. If you DM me, we could work something out about a day pass. I'll let you in today for whatever. But let's make it happen, Captain. Thank you so much once again, guys. This is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.